Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Copper Jacket TV. So we've got ourselves a pretty big problem in this country. If all of a sudden these so-called super conservative governors decide to flip-flop, change their mind, and start pushing gun control on their people. That's exactly what's happening in one state, so let's talk about what's going on. This channel is proud to be sponsored by the USCCA, absolutely one of the best memberships you could have in your wallet. As a member, you get that self-defense liability insurance, which also grants you access to any lawyer of your choosing, or you could choose one from their network. If something happens and you have to defend yourself, you call the number on the back of that card, and they will get somebody out there to speak for you. It is absolutely priceless. Check out the link in the description box. So I gotta be honest with you, the last thing I thought I'd be talking about today would be Tennessee and gun control. Those two words just don't go hand in hand. Tennessee has always been a very conservative state. When you talk about Second Amendment, there's always a lot of support. They have a Republican governor, they have a Republican lieutenant governor, they have a Republican supermajority in the state legislature. So those two things you just don't think that you would hear when you're talking about Tennessee. Well, that's until the governor said this, and now he might be getting some support.
I believe that this will protect victims, that it'll hold dangerous people accountable and away from firearms, and that it'll preserve constitutional rights at the same time.
So that was Tennessee Governor Lee, and this is his lieutenant governor.
It won't solve all the problems, but I think it will go, it'll take a good step forward.
So that's right. The governor and the lieutenant governor are pushing red flag laws in the state of Tennessee. They want to see the state legislature come up with some kind of bill and have that bill passed by the end of this session. But here's the thing, they have faith that this is going to happen. So much faith that they're saying if it doesn't happen this time, it will happen in the next session. As a matter of fact, the lieutenant governor even said this.
Hopefully it'll pass this time, but if it doesn't, I'm sure it'll pass next year.
So let me get this straight. Both the governor and lieutenant governor say that they support people's Second Amendment rights. However, they're willing to relieve someone completely of their Second Amendment rights and their personal property without ever even being charged with a crime. Simply being suspected of somebody who could maybe in the future do something. So now just based off of suspicion alone, which is really all it is, just based on suspicion alone, they are willing to violate their rights. You tell me how that is supporting the Second Amendment. So obviously it's the state legislature that would have to come up with the bill, okay? The governor doesn't just have the power to create something like that through executive order, even though he did recently try and supposedly strengthen background checks through executive order just recently. But when it comes to stuff like this, it has to go through the state legislature. So what is the Senate Majority Leader saying about this?
It's a constitutional right, whether you agree or disagree with it. The right to keep and bear arms is a fundamental constitutional right, and I support that right wholeheartedly.
So the Senate Majority Leader seems to oppose what the governor is trying to do here. However, it's being reported by local news outlets in Tennessee that there are Republicans that are willing to flip sides on the issue. There's a lot of Democrats in that state that are extremely happy. This is something that they want. This is actually part of their agenda. So you're basically caving into their demands. So what you would need here is basically in the House, you need 25% of Republicans to vote for something like this and 100% of Democrats. In the Senate, you need 30% of Republicans to vote for it and 100% Democrat. So really, you're only looking for 30% and 25% of Republicans to switch their minds on this whole red flag issue. And so it's not a big of a majority as you might think that they need. They don't need all Republicans to vote for this. They just need all Democrats to vote for it, which I don't think that'd be a problem at all. I'm sure they'd go out and celebrate right afterwards. But they just need 100% of Democrats and then some of these Republicans to flip. So some people are saying that the governor is stuck in this we have to do at least something mentality, which is a bad mentality. That's like the mentality that leads you to the dark side, right? So this whole, got to do something mentality is what is pushing for these red flags. However, there seems to be other things that are just totally being missed here. Like, for instance, security. Somebody there who is a deterrence. None of that seems to be being mentioned. They're not talking about, hey, let's raise the gas tax 1 cent. I've seen gas tax be raised by 5 or 6 cents before in several states just to fix potholes. So if you were to raise the gas tax, let's say 1% in Tennessee, that would probably be enough money to fund some type of security for all of these sensitive places. And so instead of just saying, well, if we hear or we suspect somebody's doing something, we'll, take something away from them and so forth, which really isn't going to help anything at all. Instead, it would be a real solution to curb the problem that we're seeing to this day. I mean, take a soft target, make it hard, people will move on. It's just as simple as that. It's like watching somebody who's frail, somebody who is weak, walk through a parking lot in the middle of the night with their head looking at their phone or their head looking down. That's the person that's going to be the target, not the person that's walking through the parking lot with their chest out and their head up and they're paying attention to what's going on around them. That person's less likely to be the target. It's always going to be the easiest thing that they can go after because they're cowards, okay? So instead of proposing something where you're going to strip people of their rights, why not propose something that actually works? That's the way that I look at it, but that doesn't seem to be on the top of the agenda here. What's on the top of the agenda is basically flipping sides, going along with the Democrats, and giving them the red flags that they want. That's what the governor seems to be doing here, and it should be noted by everybody who is paying attention to this. And you should watch out for those Republicans in the state legislature who all of a sudden start mentioning in the hallways that they might be on board with something like this. Take your notes, write down names, and pay attention to it. Because again, it's not a good path for Tennessee to be on. If this happens, just like every other state, it's always just the first step down a dark path.